Spain 3, Croatia 0. Another excellent opening game in the fledgling, the green shoots of Euro 2024 in Germany. And the Spaniards, just like the Germans before them, have laid down an early marker. Probably the hardest game of any of the major and more fancied nations thus far, because Croatia over the years have demonstrated themselves to be a very capable team at international football. But Spain today looks comfortable for large parts. Croatia had their opportunities, more wasteful, and we'll get on to them. When they had their opportunities, Spain, they were clinical. I was actually quite happy to see Morata score today. The much maligned Morata, consistently criticized, becomes today the third highest goal scorer in the history of this competition, with only Platini and Cristiano Ronaldo with more goals than him as he moves on to 7. I thought Fabian Ruiz was absolutely brilliant in the central areas. We saw it at Napoli for a number of years, PSG recently. I thought his overarching play was great. Rodri does Rodri things. Rodri does Rodri things up until the penalty, to be fair. And he was great. But Fabian Ruiz, creativity was there. Dominance in the middle. The goal was out of this world. The goal was absolutely phenomenal. And then I also want to speak about this young man. Now, everybody knows, because I don't ever pretend. I never pretend to my audience that I watch all the other leagues religiously. And of course, Yamal, I'm aware of who he is. Have I watched him play loads? No. International tournaments are very different from club football. And I was so intrigued to see how this young 16-year-old was going to get on today. And look, he created a really good goal. The cross from him was majestic. Let's not get it twisted. That cross was out of this world. That cross made it almost impossible for the defenders and impossible for the goalkeeper. He delivered it. And when I was growing up watching football, we called that the corridor of uncertainty, where if you're a defender and you touch it, it's probably going to go in. If you're a goalkeeper and you come off your line, you're going to get beaten by an attacker. As long as an attacker, I know it was Carvajal, but you know what I mean, a person from the attacking team makes the right run, you're almost certain to score. But it wasn't just that piece of artistry. It wasn't just the creativity. And by the way, we all know, I believe that outputs are a very, very, very key component when it comes to football. It wasn't just that from the mouth for me today. It was the maturity. It was the confidence. He wanted the ball. He wanted to attack. He just oozed top quality. And you look at him and he's not built like a man as of yet. There's so much more physical growth for Yamal. There's so much more for him to develop. I still think he'll get faster. He'll definitely get stronger. His decision-making will get better. There's a few times where he ran into the wrong areas and it was youthful exuberance. But you almost don't want to coach that out of him at this stage. You almost want that kind of unpredictability to be there. We've seen many a young player, are looking from an English point of view, with Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney. And I'm sure everyone can remember other standout examples, especially in those attacking areas. Of course, listen, R9 was one and Pele was one once upon a time at World Cups, where they just come in and there is a rawness to them. There's still a lot of development needed, but you almost don't want to see that at 16, 17, 18. You want to see him just play. And I thought he was absolutely brilliant today. Up against, by the way, Guardiola, a top defender. He was up against a top defender. He weren't up against no scrub. He weren't up against no bum. He weren't up against a championship player or someone playing in the 11th biggest league. He's up against a player trusted by the best manager in the world, in the best team in the world, and he had an excellent game. And he had a few opportunities to score, and I really wished he would have done. There's still a number of group games for him to break that record. We all love seeing history made in football. A 16-year-old to score at this tournament would be nothing short of spectacular. It really, really would be. So, as I say, it was a very, very, very good performance from Spain. I still think they have a lot to prove in the tournament. At the last World Cup, they also started like a freight train, if my memory serves me right, and that kind of faded out. Rahman here says, Terry, Rodri's undefeated streak continues in club and... Well, it doesn't, does it? It starts at 1 today because he got beat in the FA Cup final by Manu. So that streak's over, bruv. I've got to put that out there. And maybe the last 3 weeks you've been sleeping, Rahman, hibernating like a bear in the woods. But that streak is gone. It was taken by an 18-year-old. It really, really was. But we'll get back to Spain and how good they were today. Pedri doesn't have GA. No, he doesn't have GA today, but Pedri's excellent. Let us not get twisted. Pedri is excellent. And my one concern for him, and I was thinking about this when it comes to, I mentioned Manu, this will happen for Yamal as well. You don't want to see these young kids overplay, especially when their bodies haven't fully formed. Cesc Fabregas and Wayne Rooney stand out to me. At 16, 17, 18, their physique was like a man. They looked like they developed early. That sometimes leads, though, to you hitting your late 20s and your career fades a bit, which ironically happened to both of them. They were nowhere near at 28, 29 what they were at 21. I think that's because they started playing very young. Equally, when players get played too much, when they haven't physically formed yet, Michael Owen's always a standout example in my head. Theo Walcott is another. It can lead to lots of injury problems later on down the line. So Pedri's played a lot of football. I was really happy to see him take him off. And they've got to, and generally the teams on the continent do it so much better than we do in England, of learning to rotate and how to rotate properly to very much get the best out of your players. Sorry, I've already done that comment there. I didn't mean to put that up again. I did actually. Cucurella. I want to speak on Cucurella as well. And I want to speak about Cucurella because I saw a comment and I haven't seen him say it. So I don't know if it's 100% true. I haven't seen it said as of this particular point, but I saw a comment floating about, and supposedly this is Gary Neville was stated that players like Cucurella are the reason why Spain just cannot go the full way. And there may be some truth to that in the end. Maybe he makes 2 or 3 mistakes to go, Gary Neville was right. I was kind of glad to see him have a good game, especially with that block. Because at that stage of the second half, if that goes in, 30 plus minutes to go, little nerves, Croatia not playing badly on the ball throughout the majority of the game, it could be very, very different. That block was crucial beyond belief. So yeah, Cucurella I thought played very, very well today indeed. I don't know what you're saying. He's finished. I don't know who you are talking about. Specificity. Wilcott was better than Trent. Different positions. Weird comparison. Very strange comparison. I'm going to bring the panel up for you now. We've got KJ, of course, who's over there in Germany right now. Got man like Crystal Palace fan D coming on. We've got Lolo, who is from Brooklyn. We've got Judge Mo, of course, coming on. And Dayu is going to be with us as well. If you haven't done so yet, hit the like button. Please make sure you are subscribing to the Terrace as well. We're live, by the way, after the Italy. I don't know what happened to my voice then. The Italy game. Later on today. So we've got KJ here with us. Judge Mo is here. D's in the house. Dio is here. How is everybody? You all well? You all good?
Yeah. That was exciting, man. That was good, man. That was refreshing to see, man.
Yeah, buzzing.
Well, you're supporting Spain. It'd be great to hear from you first, my bro.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah. So American, clearly, but so we have to look back to our roots to figure out who we support in the Euros. It's a bit easier over here when the U.S. is playing. But my wife is from Spain, so I've been Spain all the way since I met her. You know what you got to do for your wife. But it was another season of another year looking at this of like what are we going to do? Another 1,000 pass sort of match where you're only going to get one shot on target. What are we going to do? Everybody's worried about the wide play of Nico Williams and Yamin Yamal. And they decide to go straight through the middle to Morata la Patata, as we call him, the potato. But hey, he finished it. And so I was very, very happy with Spain's performance. First and foremost, to see Rodri actually playing midfield, because for the World Cup, they had him at center back. And when they ran out of options and ideas of what to do, they didn't have him in the middle, breaking lines, making crazy tackles and doing the Rodri thing. And so I was glad to see it. That being said, I am an Arsenal fan, so the Arsenal in me was screaming red card on Rodri, but then the Arsenal fan in me was also knowing he don't get those calls, he don't get those red cards. So I hate him most of the time, but when we're here for international play, Rodri's my guy.
I hear you on that. And on that decision, Mo, I know a lot of people scream double jeopardy. I wasn't sure if I know that happens in the Premier League. I wasn't sure if that rule exists across all of football. I just don't know. Should Rodri have been sent off for that foul?
Mark Clattenburg here on the Fox coverage, who's Mark Clattenburg, he said that the referee had to look at one thing. Was it a cynical foul? Was it the double jeopardy is only if you're attempting to play the ball. But he said that he didn't think that Rodri was close to the ball at all. And he thought that they look at it. If he was trying to play the ball, they give him a yellow card, but he wasn't trying to play the ball. It's a cynical foul. It's not an attempt to play the ball that he thought. I think they thought that it should have been a red card. No one understands why Michael Oliver. I understand why he didn't give it a red card. In the law, it should have been a red card because the touch was subtle. So he just didn't want to give him a red card for this. But by the letter of the law, it's cynical foul. And he just prevented the goal scoring opportunity without trying
what it is, Mo?
It's very simple.
Mo,
Let me just jump in, Mo. Your mic's not connected, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah. You know what it is, Mo? He forgot where he was. He's used to doing cynical fouls at the halfway line for Man City, and he just happened to his natural instinct kicked in and happened in the box. It's a red for me. It's connected.
Now it's connected.
Was it even a pen? Was it even a pen in the first place? Because it seems like he tripped over his own feet, and then
no. He touched him first. He put his leg first.
It's a contact sport, though. Was there major contact? I didn't see on the replay.
No. He's about to score.
It's not a contact sport. It's behind the guy was about to score.
I don't know. From the replay that I saw, I didn't see.
So I've seen the opposite angle. I've seen an opposite angle, reverse angle. You see, but it looks like the angle they saw on UK TV. I agree with you. It looks like no contact, and it looks like the player kicks the floor and falls over. There's a reverse angle where you see this little flick out of the foot from Rodri, and it clips his foot. Does that make sense? So from the other angle,
I didn't see that over here. But then again, it's still a howler because I mean, if it is a penalty, it's a red card. I just don't understand how they get that horribly wrong. But look, end of the day, football. At the end of it, we saw what happened. There was encroachment there, and it all got cancelled out. But I mean, today, I don't want to say it was like a statement win from Spain because a lot of people have been kind of hyping up Spain. But that midfield and attack is so balanced. It's so simple as well. It's nothing overcomplicated. When you look at the situation with the wingers out wide, Williams and Yamal. Fantastic pace. You know what they want from them. Footballers willing to take on players one-on-one. Morata, of course, there's question marks with him every time whenever he plays for Spain. But the midfield, I mean, Ruiz, Rodri, Pedri. When you combine all of that together, I think that's fine. For me, the biggest question marks today was, despite the clean sheet, was the defense. And how is that defense going to cope with more clinical attacks? Because today, we even saw it. Croatia did create chances. They did. And Kukurea wasn't at fault. I know he wasn't. And he made some good challenges. And I'm not saying that they collapsed defensively, but they did allow them chances. And I think it's a high-risk, high-reward game with their pressing as well. I mean, they're pressing from the get-go. They couldn't do anything. Croatia couldn't do anything in the first half. In the second half, they created a few more chances. But for me, I'm not going to go and say that it was a statement win because of that defensive factor. But Spain in an attack and in midfield, something else. It's going to be hard. I don't know which teams could actually cope with that attack and midfield, but in defense, there's some liabilities there.
Yo, I agree with you completely. And it's something very similar to an issue that I see with England, actually. And it's hard to compare England and Spain. They seem so vastly different, except that they're not. They're very top heavy, very top heavy. And I was saying on Happy Hour last night, I don't think Spain or England win any game 1-0. I think Spain and England both are going to need to score multiple goals every game because their defenses are suspect. Any better team, or Croatia from 4 years ago or even 2 years ago, Croatia puts in 2 or 3 because they were given multiple chances. You're spot on about that.
Well, one of the things I wanted to actually speak about is how different Spain looked after the first 15 minutes. In the first 15 minutes, they tried this tiki-taka, let's pass the ball around, created nothing. And then credit to the guy, De La Fuentes, the coach. He's like, no, we're giving you the ball. You do whatever. You're going to leave a space with Morata, Williams, and Lamine Yamal, and the brilliant passes of Pedri and Fabian Ruiz. And that showed that how much space Spain had. And this is creating chances from Spain by using that space. Even, by the way, the goal that Fabian Ruiz scored, that was a big diagonal cross in the spaces for Lamine Yamal to be isolated. That normally you don't see that when Spain passes the ball, pass the ball 100 times before you reach the goal. So in my opinion, that is a different approach. That is how Spain now are moving towards the transition football, the direct football, instead of passing the ball all over. So
it's to be fair, like this has been needed to happen for Spain for a while, because obviously they had their prime golden generation, winning 3 major trophies in a row. Honestly, that can never. I don't think that can be recreated in like ever. Like really, with the couple of players that I had, they've been needing to change the way that they attack going forward for a long time, and finally, they've got some players to do it. Yamal and Nico Williams have given them the pace in behind that they've not had in such a long time. Players that actually can get the ball at their feet in the wide positions and drive at their man. They've not had that for a long time, and it's good to see Spain actually changing up a bit.
It's very refreshing, because also this was a good test for them with Croatia. Like knowing that Spain was, for me, I was rooting for Spain. Let me just put it out there first and foremost. So for everybody and I think Spain is going to win the Euros this year after seeing what they did today. Honestly, like that.
You think defensively they can do it?
Defensively, that's the thing though. They're going to score multiple goals. You're going to have to outscore them to win them.
Yeah.
You're going to have to outscore this Spanish team
that can outscore Spain though.
I'm not saying they're not teams that can. But the question is, can you do it in 90 minutes? If they score 3 like they did in the first half, like this, and then they put in another 2 in the second half, they will still concede. I mean, look at the defense today. Yes, there was a bit of suspect there. They gave chances away, but they were willing to throw their bodies at it. They weren't defending like. Who would have thought Cucurella would dive and throw his body at the ball? We know Cucurella normally. He's going to want to do something silly like, oh, let me see if I can block it with my feet. It goes under his feet. It goes in the net. It's a goal. But I think they're defending now, knowing that they're not so good at the back. They're defending with their entire bodies and whatever they need to do to just make sure the ball is not, in the back of the net. That's what I think. But this was a good test for them, because I think I was worried about how they would perform in their first game. I was like, if they play a tie game with Croatia, then I worry for them for the rest of the, But if they play well, then...
Can I ask a question? You said they could win the tournament. There's a super chat here, so I want to take from the super chat. But it says here that Spain started well at the last World Cup. They started brilliantly as well, and it petered out for them. So not reading too much into this performance. Is there a possibility, Dio, that could be the same again now? That actually this is just a little bit of a false storm, a really good opening game. Do you think they've got the staying power to go the full hog?
I looking at the players they have now, especially their white players, man, I think they do have the power. I think it's different now from the last World Cup. It's not the same exact team anymore, and we can't sit here and just because that's happened before say that that's what's going to happen again. We've seen teams that, for example, in the World Cup, remember, I think it was Croatia that came third one time in the World Cup, I think 1994 or something, out of nowhere. Who was Croatia at the time? Like literally, honestly, nobody gave them a chance. They're like, you'd be out in the first round. This is a Spanish team that I think has the staying power when it comes to the midfield and the offense. Now, their defense, I think having Rodri there is another good factor for them in front of the defense. If they can retain the ball more, keep the ball away from the opponent more, and do their long passes to Nico Williams, and they can play into the back and score. Once they hold that ball and you can't get at them, I think they can do it. The teams that I fear for them that I think will be, it's just 3 teams. I think if they go up against England, it's going to be the same type of thing. The English forward, midfield, that place is going to be really choked. If they go up against France, I think Mbappe, yes, is somebody who can just pull, rabbits out of a hat. And then Germany, for me, I think the home advantage is the biggest thing for me for Germany. When you play the home team that is hosting, there's just somehow, I don't know, in all these tournaments, home teams just tend to do well. And so yeah.
But Germany also have a better team.
Yeah, they do, but I'm just saying, like, also with the added advantage of
Mo, I think you're
yeah.
muted
you're
as well.
muted, man.
Your mic's not
Mo.
working.
I said also
Mike, man, I didn't think Spain were that strong today at all.
I think they
Croatia
look
was
good.
so
They look
bad.
good.
Because
though.
about to say we need to. Mo, you put up a good point. We need to talk about Croatia. They've been holding on for too long, for way too long.
That
With these
Brozovic
guys,
guy is
man.
Here's the guys. The first goal, the
Saudi
two center backs had 25 yards between them, leaving Morata in the middle. This is just what is this?
Because they were deathly afraid of the wing play. They came out going, "We have to shut down Lamine Yamal. We'll let Patata have the ball all he wants. He's not going to score. He's like Darwin Nunez most of the time, but he played that ball very well and bodied the guy out and scored."
Yeah, the way it's one of those weird things because again, I don't follow what Croatia are doing as a nation until you get to a tournament, and they are a good team.
They look good on paper.
But when you said hanging on. You see those guys. Obviously, I had a hair transplant. Okay, so, but when my hair got to a point where I was like, I can't have a normal haircut because the receding's too bad, I just went and shaved it off. You see those guys who, no matter how thin they get on top, they still go to the barbers and get like a proper haircut, and it's like, bro, stop holding on to it.
Yo, that's
You've got to let go. You've got to let go. You've got to move on. It ain't coming back. It ain't coming
We've got
back.
those three Homer Simpson hairs of Modric, Kovacic, Perisic.
Brozovic. That midfield three is literally that is Homer Simpson's head top. Those three have just been there.
Some zigzags.
Since like 2014, man. It's
Brozovic is different though this time around, and I think that's one big problem with Croatia. He's gone to Saudi and he looked off the pace today. I'll be honest. He looked off the pace today. I think with Kovacic and Modric. Even then, Modric, I don't think he had a particularly bad game. I think overall they managed to get in behind. But that midfield three, especially in the first half, in the second half, maybe it's just the first game, it just wasn't connecting how they normally connect. What we've seen in previous tournaments.
One thing about Croatia,
and you know what, KJ? I also think that for Croatia, like if you're going to have any bad games, I think this should be their bad game. I would be happy to have this as my bad game in the tournament, as like as much as I don't want to lose. If I'm the Croatians, I'll look at it that way as the team. We've had our bad game in the first round now. Now let's just go on and win the next two games. Let's make sure that at least we're in the running to go into the next round and just try to get stronger. Because on paper, man, they look good. Is
Italy one of their games? Is Italy in their group?
I'm not. Italy's in. Oh man,
no. So I want to make sure I get this right. No, their group.
Italy and Albania.
Italy.
It's group B. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The honest truth.
Okay.
Modric looked atrocious today in the first half. Kovacic looked off it. That's
Modric
looked old.
He looked like Modric. Yeah, Modric looked like Modric. Do you know what I mean?
It looked. That's the first time, to be honest, to see his age. It was showing. He couldn't get around the pitch, and I'm like, he couldn't get around the pitch. Pedri, Rodri, and Fabian Ruiz completely outplayed him in terms of like that. It's not about the number of passes, about the position. He couldn't find the spaces to pick any passes until the second half came. I thought Brozovic didn't want to be there. His body language was horrific, as usual. Of course, Kovacic tried to dribble 50,000 players every time he picked up the ball. To be honest, this Croatian team is not the same as we've seen in 2018 and the last like yours. This is
they can still get out of group, though. They can still get out of group. I mean,
I actually think if they lose to Italy, and they get 3 points, you won't get out of the group.
Italy wants to watch. I don't know about Italy. Honestly, I don't. Turkey recently faced them. Turkey recently faced them in a friendly. That friendly was, I mean, both sides were terrible, and Turkey itself is funny.
Yes, you're right.
Watching them at times, but Italy's the one to really watch. I'm looking at that game probably a bit more like in detail in regards to Italy than I was with Spain, because Italy, I've got question marks over whether what they're going to do in this tournament or not.
One of the weakest. All I want to say, one of the weakest Italian teams you have seen. And to be honest, this is one of the weakest Spanish teams I've seen over the past 10, 12, 15 years. Italy's the same. Only France and England are as strong as they can be over the past like 20, 30 years. But Spain and Italy weaker.
I mean, you've seen, I know they're not in this tournament, but you've seen Ronaldinho today basically say, I'm not Brazilian anymore because of how bad this squad is. It's mad how some nations, it just seems to have sort of fallen off in terms of the overarching quality.
I don't think it's a falling off in what it is. I think the base level in football has risen, so you get more 3 out of 10 players. No, not 3 out of 10. You got more 3 out of 5 players than ever before. I think there's a lot of good base level footballers, but the quality, the 5 out of 5 players, they've dropped down in quantity. There's that little that drop, and now in these tournaments, now you can see it where you're like, who's actually gonna win this tournament? It's very open.
There's certainly that, and I put a voice note in the group chat earlier. I think when you looked at, I know we're talking the Euros here, but Brazil, I think too many of their young players are plucked off of playing street football, off of playing beach football, far too young, and put into academies. And then you couple that into, and this isn't a dig at any particular manager or club, but the kind of regimented styles of football that I think took to another level. And over the last 15 to 20 years, most managers and most clubs try to do something similar. I almost think from a young age, you're almost coaching the flair and the quality out of a lot of players, and they're making everybody a little bit more sort of mechanical and machine-like, if that makes sense. And I think that we're now seeing the end of that. And look, football's cyclical. So what will happen in another 20 years, it will probably go back the other way, as an example. And then a team will do what Barca did and start dominating. And everyone will go, how can we cope? And everything else. So I think there's a combination of things that's done it. I want to throw out as well, guys. Obviously, a very, 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 very young man was playing today, 16 years of age. Yamal. D, what did you make of his performance at his first major tournament at 16 years old?
People talk about STARBOY. He is a STARBOY. Like that tag should belong to him. He doesn't look like a 16-year-old out there. It's even when we talk about him now, I'm thinking that he seems like he's ready. He seems like he's been playing football for 5 to 10 years. I honestly think next season, he already had the hype going into the tournament, but next season, if not already, he will be considered as one of the best right wingers in the Premier, not in the Premier League, in Europe. In Europe,
it might be in the Premier League.
It might be Barca, nowhere Barca selling him. He is ridiculous.
The boy like, is.
Who else was at 16 years old as good as Yamal is right now? When's the last time a 16-year-old has come on to the scene? He's the youngest player to ever play in Europe.
Wayne Rooney was 18 when he started. I think he was 18 when he broke through. The only player, this is biased to a degree because I know my own club's history. Duncan Edwards is the last person I can remember, I think was about that age and was good enough to play at the highest level. And he died in the Munich air crash. You're talking, it is a rarity to be 16. Yeah, but again, Fabregas was very good. I'm not taking that away. But was Fabregas able to start for Spain at 16? Was he good enough to start for Spain at 16 years of age? I don't think so.
Like it's not normal. Like maybe just me, but I don't think what he's doing is normal at the age of 16 to be in the Euros. First of all, starting the games, and not only just starting the games, impact. Look at that assist. He's got the ability. He will take on players, and that is why when you look at the attack and the midfield of Spain, it is balanced. Williams on the left, Yamal on the right, both 1v1 players. They'll take on their players and they'll deliver. But the 3 kids on the right hand side, that's a 16-year-old. That's not a normal thing. And how many appearances is he gonna have for Spain? God knows. He's the youngest player.
To think that this boy will get back into the hotel room to pick up his laptop and probably do homework.
Well, listen.
Seriously. Like to think that is a possibility.
If you ever have a bad game,
does anybody think this guy can reach Messi's level?
That's hard. That's hard. It's too early to say.
Give him
16 years old, youngest ever player in the Euros. And I think he's the youngest to score in the Champions League, if I'm not mistaken, ever. In the Champions League, he's
the youngest with an assist.
One second, guys. I just want to address this Rooney thing. Rooney was 16 when he broke through at Everton. Maybe a misunderstanding there. I'm talking about being ready to start for your nation and a top nation at that at an international tournament. And I understand timing is key because if the Euros was in a year's time, he'd be 17 doing this, right? So you can't quite help me. But Rooney was 17, almost turning 18 when he went into the Euros in 2024. 2 years prior, the World Cup in 2002, Wayne Rooney wasn't ready for England. So the point I'm making is, and I know timing's a little key, I don't think he may have been ready a year earlier at 16 turning 17. But the point I'm making is this is so unprecedented. I'm not taking that away from Rooney. I love Wayne Rooney, but This kid is 16 years old and he's starting at the Euros. That is unprecedented.
When it comes to the Messi comparisons as well, I do think you have to take a step back and realize who Messi is and what he's done as well. I think Yamal, as good as he is, to even like it's I don't know who else could reach the status of Messi. Like, it's going to be very hard. It's so early to call it. But for me, is his end product and all of that. He's still 16 years old. It's hard to say right now whether he will or whether he won't. But for me, if he does, then that will be unreal.
Messi was not like
very
this.
hard. It's going to be very hard.
Just to say one thing, Messi was not like this at 16 years old.
Of course. But
Messi
Mo, the thing is,
started breaking through at 19 in 2007, right?
Yeah, true. But Mo, the thing is, I think he can chart his own legacy in this world of football.
Yes.
I don't think there will ever be another Messi. I don't think anybody's going to, because players like, when you talk about players like Maradona and Messi's and the Pelés and the Zicos, and you're talking about all these kind of guys, they come once in a cycle. It's hard to sit here and say just because he's 16 and playing very well right now. He's playing in the Barcelona team that, Barcelona has good coaching as regards to their system and how they groom their youngsters and grow the youngsters in the game. He's playing for Spain, which is an amazing footballing nation. Their football is good over the years. We all know this. So it's easy for us to see him play very well and then just say like, oh, maybe he'll be as good as Messi or maybe as good as Ronaldo. He'll chart his own legacy.
Yeah, let me just check. I'll come to the second, KJ.
But I don't think he will.
I just want to say, people saying, yes, Messi made his debut in 04 again, but what people are talking about, well, no, that was for the under. He made his debut in 2005 for Argentina. His first major tournament was the 06 World Cup when he was 19 at that point. The point people are making, this is not about saying, and this is the problem when you have these conversations. I agree with you, Dar. I don't like the comparisons because it makes Messi fanboys, I'm not saying you are one, McAvee, it makes Messi fanboys almost instantly hate him, which is weird, right? And then it applies pressure he doesn't need. He is a very talented young player. Just because at 16, 17, you're doing something Messi wasn't, doesn't equal you're going to be better than him. I'm just saying being 16, starting at a major tournament is almost unprecedented in our lifetime. Somebody said a minute ago said Maradona did it at 16. Cool. None of us, I don't think any of us here are alive when Maradona was making that debut.
No,
so like I said, so for us watching, for our generation and beyond, it's unprecedented. And I just think I don't feel like it needs Messi or Maradona or Rooney's name brought up per se. It's let's celebrate this 16-year-old boy, because that is what he is. He's not even officially a man yet, doing something absolutely amazing, because the hard work, the dedication, the determination and mindset to get to this point at 16 is that for me impresses me more than his skill, because 16-year-olds by definition are immature. So to be able to get himself ready to play for Barcelona and Spain at this age is phenomenal, and that is a credit to this young man, and it should just be celebrated in isolation. Just being here.
He's doing his biology homework right now. Right now, he's doing his biology homework online. Literally submitting the homework for his teacher to mark it. That people don't understand, and that's what blows my mind.
Yeah,
it's just everything else, we'll see what he turns out to be. We saw Ansu Fati. We'll see what he turns out to be. There are a lot of amazing young players, but to be that age, man, Terry said it. To be that age. Like if my 16-year-old plays for my country, right, breaks into the Nigerian national team, I don't care whether he's the most skillful player or the worst player. At 16, he broke into the national team and he represented his country. I will make a whole plaque and put it on my wall. Literally.
You have to recognize your special things. I'm going to go to you next, KJ. So do any of you know who Michael Venom Page is?
No. Yes, the fighter.
Yes, his fighter. I know Michael. I used to work for his father at his schools. I was in Team GB with him when it comes to kickboxing and karate. And you're allowed at 16 in my old sport to move up to what they call the adult version of the sport, because it was like points fighting that we did at that stage. But you weren't forced to move up until you were 18. You had every now and then you got this 16 and 17-year-old who they were too good for the other 16 and 17-year-olds and they moved up earlier. And these were always superstars within our sport. Michael Venom Page, they had to get special exemptions from the World Karate Association and World Kickboxing Association. At 14 years of age, he moved up to the over 18s category simply because he couldn't get any better because he was just destroying everybody in his age range. And that's why when I look at someone doing something crazy and I look at the martial arts career he's had, the MMA career he's had, what he's gone on to achieve, and it's a different sport, but the similarities are there. This kid is 16. He's doing something that has seldom been done. And again, I don't even mean this horribly. If he was born in Iceland and Iceland qualified, cool. But what level of talent does Iceland have in comparison to Spain? If he's coming through an academy at a club where you could be Mark Noble's level and play regularly, you're doing this at Barcelona and Spain. It's a much higher level. It's a much higher bar. And I just think it's, in isolation needs to be celebrated. But KJ, over to you. Sorry.
Yeah, what I was wanting to say, like what epitomizes him on the pitch is that moment when Morata went down and he was laying on the floor and then the ball broke to Yamal. And instead of playing the ball out instantly and being like, oh, my guy's down, he's like, no. I'm going to take this on myself. And listen, if he had went and scored that goal, yes, we can compare him to Messi because that's how close he was to do something amazing. But he's a young man. He's got no fear. And in this, I think in this modern day, with young players especially, there is a fear because the coaches will say you're not doing the right things. The coaches will drop them for weeks, months on end because in one game they didn't do something correct. So there's a fear that I have to make sure I'm in this position right, and then I have to make sure that I play this pass correctly. And you can tell that there's a lot of them that play within themselves. Whereas Yamal, the one thing I noticed about him is that he's free. He just plays with no fear. He plays with no pressure in a sense. And he just goes and delivers. And that cross today, we saw it in the friendlies midweek. Now to see it replicated again, it shows consistency. He shows decision making, and it shows that he can get.
The kid scares me though. The kid scares me like
brilliant.
Yeah, he scares me. Just looking at him and just thinking, if he can replicate this, and he's definitely going to get better because he's young. Ooh. Like I'm just looking at him now and saying, you're going to get better. You're young and you can be this consistent. Ooh.
He will get better, but then you also need to see how his body develops as well. Because as we say, he's still young. As he grows taller, would that impact his agility on the ball and his speed and all of that? So
experience will come in as well.
That's what I'm saying. He's still very young age, but as Terry said, I think the biggest thing about him is that he's playing on one of the biggest stages out there. He's playing for a massive country. He's playing for a country with loads of expectations. That, I mean, even Morata, he's been slandered for years, and he has no fear. He has no fear, and on top of that, he has the talent as well. He is destined to the top, but whether it makes or not, let's see how he develops.
And Macca's right here, where he says the only worry is that Barca will overplay him like they did Fati and are doing with Pedri, and this is so true. You know, again, Messi wasn't playing regular first team football till he was 19. Ronaldo came to Man United, I think, at 17 or 18, and he had a lot of appearances the first year, but he wasn't starting a lot of the games. You've got to know how and when to, somebody was saying to me the other day, do you think Mainu should start regularly for Man United next season? And there is part of me that goes, yes, I love him. There's another part of me that thinks maybe 2 in every 3 games. Do I want him having a 50-game plus season at 18, 19 years of age? Can his body cope? Now, Mainu's a little different. You look at him, he's quite filled out. He's got, athletically, he's got bigger legs. He looks like he's filled out. So maybe his body's more developed than, some men take a little bit longer into their early 20s until they kind of fill out. So I do hope that Spain get that right with him, because I'd hate to see a player like him at 21, 22, just on that injury table all the time and hurt.
The problem, Terry? The problem is also, if you look at when Messi broke into the Barcelona team, right? He couldn't break in because there were other players who were very, very good. I mean, he was going up against the Eto'os and the Ronaldinhos, and these are not players that you can just overshadow. Right now in the Barcelona team, there's nobody there, which is why they play Pedri, which is why they play Yamal. They don't really have anybody. If they had more experienced players if they hadn't gotten rid of some of the experienced players, it would have been easier to say, oh, you know what, hey, play him every other 2 games or every other 3 games, so that way he can develop even better. But not having anybody there is a problem. They're going to overplay him.
I agree.
They are going to overplay him. They don't have an option.
Didn't Messi say Yamal has potential? Shout out to La Masia for making ballers for Barca. That farmhouse is scary, and now Hansi Flick. But it is about balance, though, Debbie. Hope you're well, by the way, because you can't. I always talk about this, and it's the best thing I think punditry-wise he ever said. Gary Neville got shown all the United youngsters when the Rashfords and Martials and co were young. Maybe this was about 6 years ago. And he was asked, how good would they become? And he said, you actually have no idea how good a young player will get to. It's hard to gauge. He says it's all just guesswork based on their potential and ability. He said, but the team I played with, and he's mentioned in it, the team that the young Barca graduates played with, they were surrounded, as you've just alluded to, Dio, by top-class, fully formed men that were the spine of the team that the expectation was put through. The class of 92 at Manchester United didn't have the expectation of being the individuals to deliver, not until they were all like 22 and 23. But at 17 and 18, it wasn't suddenly, all right, Neville, Bex, you guys, you've got to go and win the league. It was, and that's what I hope they get right, is that the pressure isn't put upon all these kids. Wesley here says the same way Croatia suffered, and the same way Croatia suffered is the same way Germany's midfield will be exposed by a better team.
Oh, the age and the speed, man, maybe.
Yeah, but all these knockout tournaments, man, this is what I sometimes when we predict stuff like it's like, oh, they'll be exposed. All it takes is for them to score one goal and just park the bus. I
agree, but I also don't like to write anybody off too early as well, because after the first game at the World Cup just gone, everybody was like, Argentina look, and I remember saying they got beat by Saudi, and one thing I said is Messi and this triggered people. I didn't say Messi was finished. I said he needs legs around him, and I said the first starting line they had, I think too many of their younger, fresher players were on the bench. And I said, they've got to change this, and they've got to put runners around Messi, because you can carry Messi leg-wise with where he is now with runners around him. You can't have 2 or 3 players around Messi that don't have the legs, because you need them to do the running work. And they made those changes. They brought in the likes of Enzo, and that started more games, and they went on to another level. So sometimes you look at the opening game and go, there's the flaws and holes. One or two changes, and things can change. I think it takes a few group games before we make those decisions. This says, I've lived in Spain 20 years, Terry, and I was here when they won the Euros and World Cup. Again, I can't go through it again. Listen, it's you choose to live in another nation, especially a beautiful country like Spain. You know how good they are at football. You might come a cropper there.
Well, Terry, that kind of ties into something that I was talking about when I was watching the match. And I was looking at this 16-year-old kid. And like you were saying, KJ, it was just remarkable how calm he was. And the whole time playing his game, he was doing the same exact things that we see him do for Barcelona. He wasn't trying to be David Villa or trying to be Fabregas or someone like that. And then I started thinking, well, he's 16. The last time they won the Euros, he was 5. 4 when they won the World Cup, he was 2. So wow. What do you guys think of being the fact that he is 16 years of age? He doesn't have a lot of that baggage of trying to live up to this team the way that a lot of these countries do, like Germany, where they go on a slump because they can't be those guys. Yet the country wants them to be. The country wants them to just be replacing. My wife even said about Cucurella, she was like, "Is he trying to be the new Puyol?" And I was like, "Just let him be him. Just because he's aggressive and kind of clumsy and big hair, but still a good defender. He's not trying to be the new Puyol." So what do you guys think about that, separation of time where he's just out here playing his game? He's not trying to be anybody else except Lamine Yamal.
Well, as an England fan, the separation of time don't mean nothing, because we ain't won the World Cup A trophy in years and years and years. Yeah. We've been separated. What we need to separate from is failure. That's what we need to separate from, because we love that over here in this team.
Well, the funny thing, I think you are right with the age thing. Like, if you were 2 years old when your country won something the last time, and by the time you're 16, I mean, all you don't have the weight of, oh, look at the players from way before, you can play like them. You never really saw them. You're just a talented kid who's made it to where he's made it to with a lot of hard work, dedication, consistency, and you're just like, look, I just want to play football, right? You're not. I want to play for my country and play the best I can. I think the older players who were maybe like 15, 16 and played with some of the greats who were like subs for some of the greats and never really got to play in tournaments, but maybe went with the Spanish team to the World Cup and stayed on the bench, who are now the guys, who are now the ones playing, are carrying that weight because they've so someone who's a good example, somebody who's like 30 right now, and the last time they wanted, he was 20, he was on the bench, he didn't really get to play, but now he's still either like on the Spanish team. Those kind of players would carry that weight because they witnessed it. They witnessed.
I don't think there's any pressure though.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think there's pressure on him. Yeah,
people think this is going to be another Messi Maradona thing where you have to deliver for Spain like the others. That Spanish generation that delivered was not carried by one player. It was a generation.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an expectation on this generation. If you read the newspaper in Spain and you talk to the Spanish fans, like you talk to anybody that supports Spain, they don't have the expectations of that generation of we got to win the Euros, the World Cup. Even when they went to the Euros after, they're like, we have the best team now. No expectation.
It's a very, very. I don't know how other nations operate because I don't live there and see the way people operate. And people can tell us in the comments that do live in other nations. But over here, we do this thing of Wayne Rooney gets so much criticism because he didn't get to the level that certain journalists said he might, or certain people thought he would. So when he was young and he never made a single claim saying, I'm going to be the English Pele. He never said, I'm going to be the person, I'm going to be the greatest English player of all time. There was a time where him, Messi, and Ronaldo were compared to each other, and many people said that he could be the best of all three. But Rooney never said that. Yet people get angry at Messi because he didn't achieve somebody else's expectations. Sorry, get angry at Rooney. And I don't know if the Spaniards, I don't know if the Spanish will do that to this. And that's the whole point. It's around a lot of people, especially fans, we love to kind of live vicariously through others. So we look at a footballer that's really good and it's like, if I was them, I'd do this and I did. Well, no, you didn't. You wouldn't. Look, you're 45 years old. You're not really a success. Where was all this energy and work rate and dedication for your life, brother? And you're just taking it out on somebody else now, maybe. And I think the best thing to do for these kids is you put the pressure on them for like expectations, standards, behavior to try and get to the top, but allow them just to blossom and allow them the freedom that no 16, 17, 18-year-old should have the pressure of their club or their nation on their shoulders. We see it happen to Wayne Rooney, and I wouldn't say it destroyed him, but it definitely took away from him. The best tournament he had was 2004 when there was no expectations on him, and he flourished.
It's going to happen, though, Terry. It is going to happen. I think when we look at players like Yamal, for example, we're even talking about him today. I mentioned him in the same sentence as Messi. It's crazy, but it's already happening. So even when you talk about comparisons to other countries, for example, even in Turkey, when you look at the expectations, we haven't done anything, but there's still expectations because of Arda Güler, who plays for Real Madrid, Yildiz, who plays for Juventus. So it's Çalhanoğlu, who of course plays for Inter. There's an expectation for those players who play at club level to now deliver at international level. So when it comes to Spain, I do think even though as a team they haven't got that quality as the previous generations, as individuals, as the years go by, maybe not in this tournament, as the years go by, them expectations will naturally be there. Not because of maybe the fans, but the media will create that expectations. Because, I mean, there's quality there. So naturally, if you're this quality player that's meant to be reached, meant to reach the very top, then there has to be expectation for you to deliver, both in club and international level. So maybe not in this tournament, but that expectation is 100%.
That's a great point. Viewers, I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions on this. Obviously, the Italy game is starting in around 15 minutes. This stream is going to take you through to Mo's channel where Mo is doing a watch along. So go and support him. We're all back live after the game as well to review what has happened with the Italians and Albania. I'm really excited about this game as well. Before you leave this stream, hit the like and the share button. Also join the Football Terrace group chat by scanning that QR code on the screen right now. D, pleasure to see you again. Nick, been a long time. Make sure you come on another show. Doesn't need to just be Spain games. We want to get as many voices on as we can. Dio, KJ, Mo, always a pleasure, boys. My viewers, you're amazing. We'll see you in a couple of hours' time. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll